Hello, welcome to Good Games Well Played, episode 153. I'm Clint, aka JCM. With us this week is Isli.
Yo.
And this will just be a short episode. We're not recording on a normal day. We're all kind of busy on the day we normally record, and I don't have any other days to record this week. And there won't be any episode recording this week because I'll be out of town. But I want to get something in. I figure we won't really talk about any of the new stuff. I mean, not too much crazy has happened. There's like PS5 Pro leaks, which seem legit, but I'm like, that doesn't mean anything unless we see the games. So, whatever. So I figured this episode we'll kind of just talk about, what we've been playing. And again, it'll be kind of shorter. But yeah, like I said, we'll just start with Isli because I know you've been playing some more Death Stranding. Have you played, before you get into that, have you been playing anything else or just Death Stranding?
No, I've just been playing Death Stranding.
All right.
So easy conversation for you.
You still in chapter 3?
I'm in chapter 5 now, I guess. I still am in that same overworld, which then it crossed my mind that maybe each chapter is in that overworld moving forward.
Yeah, it's that area you're in is like the bulk of the game takes place there.
Yeah.
That's America.
So I'm still in America. But I finished chapter 4, which was the weird World War II segment. And then I've started Mama, the chapter.
That's World War One, by the way.
Is it World War One?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. I don't remember BTs and assault rifles and shotguns and hematic grenades in World War One. So my bad.
Hey, Dead Man explains to me, man. It's like, that sounds like stuff from over 100 years ago. But yeah. Anyway.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. In chapter 5, I've just been building the road connection to Mountain Knot City in order to do the missions out there, and I've started setting up zip lines, and I'm kind of in this phase right now of going through old emails and messages I received for cleanup and some of the like bonus content that was added in the director's cut. So I'm kind of trying to get caught up on like a lot of the side stuff before delivering what appears to be a nuke. Not the first nuke that you throw in the crater, but the second nuke that you have to deliver. I'm like, I'm sure this is going to be a quest or something that takes a while. So cleaning up a bunch of side stuff. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Are you enjoying it so far?
I really like the gameplay. I think the gameplay loop is really fun. The whole rebuilding the roads, dropping off packages, exploring, the kind of construction of structures to make your life easier, getting from point A to point B. Like right now I'm setting up the zip lines, and I actually find that to be pretty enjoyable to find like optimal zip line routes and things through the mountains. So I love all of that. This will pain you. I think the story is pretty bad. I don't enjoy Hideo Kojima's way of storytelling, and I still just strongly think that he needs an editor. He introduces too many concepts, and it just seems like he's doing it just to be like edgy, when I feel like he has a really interesting world, and if they tightened up the story, I just think it would make the game so much better. There's too much stuff that doesn't like all come together.
Yeah, I suppose maybe later when it kind of you see the bigger picture.
Potentially, but like, okay, so I'm trying to think of how to do it. It's more like he's mixing up too many genres in fantasy telling. So like in a medieval world, I'm going to use this as the example of like, you'll have your knights, you have your dragons. Historically in medieval stories, the knights battle the dragons, and that's kind of the trope. You have wizards for magic, you have things like that. But then when you layer in like, you wouldn't add steampunk to the medieval world without it being just a totally different type of game. I'm not saying you can't layer in steampunk. I'm just saying that like typically, most medieval fantasy games, the world has a set of rules and it wouldn't involve steampunk. And then on top of that, you wouldn't then add in like cyberpunk or things like that. And that's kind of what I feel like is happening with Death Stranding, which is like he's introducing too many different genres that just don't seem or too many big concepts that don't seem tied together. So you've got timey-wimey stuff going on with the timefall. It accelerates aging. That by itself is like a really cool concept. I love that concept of how basically like you're trained to be afraid and cautious of rain. It increases, degradation of all of your gear, so you have to be wary of all of that. Um, you've got the BTs, which is like a horror element. I like that that's tied to the timefall. But then on top of this stuff, you have like, so you've got like two kind of solid, you've got a horror element with the BTs, you've got kind of like a solid sci-fi element with the timefall. Um, but then you've got like the life or death stuff with the beach. And I'm not saying it's bad, just it's like it's a totally different concept that could have been its own thing right there. So then you layer in suddenly that when you battle Unger, like you get teleported to an alternate reality or something. So like now there's uh, time shenanigans and like universal multiverse spatial shenanigans. Like it just feels like he couldn't focus on one particular thing and went, "Hey, do you know what else would be cool? Let's add this into the game now." And it bothers me because I actually really like the world and the graphics and the gameplay loop, but I think that the story is like you've got too many ideas and you just needed to like cut one or two of them and focus on making it a tighter story instead.
Yeah, so I mean they all tie together. Like the BTs are beach things, so they're directly related to the beaches, and then so's the battle you go to, and when you first fight Unger, like the World War I area, like that get explains to you eventually once you get to Mountain Knot, and then eventually you meet up with Hartman. Like he'll explain it. I mean, it's not really spoilers, where it's like his theory is that in wartime, uh, if there's enough, people are experiencing, they're all experiencing the very similar trauma, like all the soldiers that die, and that collective trauma is sort of creating this unified beach, which is shaped by that trauma. So that the war, that's why you're on a beach, but it looks like World War I because all the soldiers just they haven't been able to move on because they're all trapped on that location. So it ties together. It definitely does seem like, whoa, what the heck is this? I got sucked up into the sky. There's like chiralium density, and I got pulled up, and now I'm in World War I. Like, what's going on here? Like, and then who's Unger? Like, who is this person? It all does tie together, but yeah, definitely early on, like it seems
Yeah.
like how
Like
it's that weight of when are they going to tell me how it ties together?
like I feel like what Death Stranding is right now it's a world made up of like 10, and I'm just throwing out numbers, but like it's like 10 really cool ideas that are all kind of expanded on a little bit. And what I feel like the game should have just been is like picking and choosing three or four of those ideas and just going way harder into those three or four. Like
Yeah,
I just feel
yeah.
like it has too many concepts and ideas that it throws around out there. And even if they tie it together in the future, it's just like it still just feels like too many. It feels like there needed to be a few less.
Yeah. I guess it seems like a lot of times too. It's like, okay, we want to be able to have the player put objects anywhere. Okay, well they'll have a printer. Well, the printer uses chiralium, and so they have to be on the chiral network. So okay, we'll add this story bit, and versus just being like, hey, you can just build stuff. Um,
Right.
like in normal games, you just grab resources and build it. And this is like, okay, it's this way. And then the idea of, okay, what we got to connect everybody. Okay, well, there's no internet, but we use this chiral network, yada, yada, this thing. So, yeah, there
And I
are
mean,
a lot of concepts. So,
so I'll 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 go to the timefall again just because I like that one. But like, okay, so the game Death Stranding, there is a separation or there's a point. They talk all about the Egyptian stuff of like separating the body and soul and how the Death Stranding happened. And when the Death Stranding happened, people basically couldn't pass on. So just like oversimplifying things, you've got the BTs, which are basically like ghosts that can't move on. Then you've got your people that are alive, and you've got your people that are dead. Um, so like with that concept, just from a very high level, like why the hell is there rain that ages people? Like how does that? I guess it's just like even though I like the timefall, how does that tie into what the game's core concept was of life, death, and kind of like people being stranded in life?
yeah, it's like we want to let's add it's like the side effect of chiralium. It's like, okay, well, let's say, if there's too much chiralium, that creates the time fall. And it's like, but it was created more as an idea of uh, gameplay. Like,
Yeah,
okay, let's add, like, it's a cool gameplay idea. Now let's fix it into the story.
Right.
Um,
So like I like the time fall. I actually think it's a really cool idea. And I think that was the problem is like somewhere along the line they thought like, oh man, this concept of like rain that ages people is pretty cool. How can we fit this into the game so it makes sense still? And I feel like there's just a lot of ideas like that where it's like, okay, the core concept of the game with like life, death, and being stranded and stuff. There are other ideas that are put into this game that I don't feel align with that.
yeah,
And
it's
that's where my commentary on needing an editor comes in because I feel like an editor or different editor would have pointed out like, hey, you know, these things are cool and all, but like maybe they should be their own game. Maybe they don't need to be like this.
yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, it is like okay, like so many of the other concepts kind of they make sense. Again, but then yeah, you have these some things that's like okay, it's just a thing that happens because the chiral network. Okay, well you created the chiral network. It doesn't really, uh, that's an idea that you had there. So, but yeah, it's like it's a little too much, um, to really be thrown at everybody, uh, all at once. Because like it's fine, like in Metal Gear, like to throw a lot at you, but it's all based on real life stuff. So it's like okay, you can understand it. It's kind of like my issue, like whenever I play again fantasy games, and I'm just like Immortals of Avium. It's like okay, let's throw you. It's like you can't don't throw Seven Kingdoms at me because I'm not gonna fucking remember any of them. And don't give me fancy names for your elite soldiers because I'm not gonna remember them. Like at least the Immortals are just the Immortals, and then I know that. And then eventually, after playing, it gets okay. I know Sandrek. I know these people. I know these locations now. But like, it took a while to build that in, and that's always my issue with. I mean, sci-fi usually does too. It's like you got a new planet. It's got its name this or whatever, but versus something uh, like Horizon's really good because it's based on Earth. So you find all these places that are real, and then you have things that are built up around them. So it's like, okay, you have a foundation. Now let's build off it. But yeah, it's like I have that same issue with fantasy where I'm like, I can't like Skyrim, like I didn't play that game for the story. I didn't care because I don't care about all the there's always those memes where it's like people reading like me my brain when I read a fantasy novel. It's like, and then I went to Schmorgan Morgan Morgan and I found Prince like they always like mumble over because like how the hell are you gonna
Right.
pronounce or remember it? But
And
yeah, so
that's
I
pretty
get that.
much
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty much the issue I'm having is just like, and I'll like Sam being a repatriate or repatriate as they put it and being able to come back from the dead. But then for some reason they also explain it like he has dooms and things and it's like, okay, so there's this life and death thing, but also there's like the sickness that affects certain people and it lets them see ghosts. And also, um, he can come back from the dead, but he's the only one. And for some reason, his blood injures the ghosts. And it's just like, why does it need to be his blood that injures the ghosts? Like, is it just because he wanted blood grenades? There's too many
That
things like that.
it's funny because like there's a lot of stuff that it'll be interesting to see the like if you write these down like why this, why this, why this. And then if once you beat the game and then go back and look at those questions and be like, see if it's like, okay, because I obviously I can't say a lot of stuff, but I'm like, there are a lot of things in there where at the start it's like Cliff's a great Unger's a great character. It's like, who is this? You're seeing flashbacks of this person. You have no idea what's going on. And it's just like, which is fine because I like that for me, where I'm like, okay, there's a mystery here. I'm seeing a bit of it, but I won't get the answer until way later. Um, I'm fine with that. And then like I never question like, okay, his blood special, that's fine. But then the story tells you like once you learn it all, it's like, okay. So it is kind of which again goes back to the replay being fun because now I know everything. So seeing it now and how they piecemeal it out, I know it, but it's interesting to see like how it's piecemealed out. Um, but yeah, I can understand your frustration
Or
because it definitely is a very
like
big.
bridge babies. Like, what
Mhm.
the fuck is up with bridge babies?
Yeah, the Bridge Baby program, man. You gotta
Yeah, yeah,
you gotta have
but
your still mother, and it was a yeah. There's yeah.
like they're it's just yeah, okay. So they have underlying all of this, and somehow separate from the Death Stranding event is the Bridge Baby experiments, which occurred before the Stranding. So it was like a separate thing that was already going on, and somewhere along the line, someone decided to like cut babies out of mothers that died or something. So it's just like I'm really struggling with the amount of ideas they throw at you
Mhm.
that just don't feel. important. Like they feel like they could have been something else without losing anything to the story. Like chiral network, fine. You're just basically renaming the internet. That's fine. I don't care about that. Timefall, I don't really think the timefall makes sense in terms of the gameplay. I think it's a cool feature and a side effect, but like it doesn't really make sense in terms of the gameplay. Um, the beaches, they sort of make sense, except for some reason, like Fragile can jump through beaches. So, like, there's some level of teleportation that's involved as well, which that part doesn't make sense to me because it's like, okay, so you can just like teleport because you have a beach.
Well,
Um,
she has a different level of dooms, so her connection to the beach is stronger than it is for Sam.
yeah, none of that makes sense. Having a stronger connection to the beach and thus being able to teleport doesn't fit with the whole idea of life and death. Like, it just seems like a ham fisted way of saying, hey, I want a character that can teleport. How can we do it? And then someone went, like, oh, well, they could just have a higher level of dooms and that's how they can teleport.
That's how you fast travel. Well, yeah, because she goes to her beach, so it's like um, she can
But why
use it
doesn't she
as a.
come out in the same spot? Why do beaches allow you to move to a different location in the real world? Why don't you just like re-enter from the exact same point you left?
It's a there's also time difference between time works. Well, that'll get explained later. But anyways, it's like yeah, she just used it. I don't know if they fully because Higgs can use it as well. That way he has a higher level of dooms than even
Like,
Fragile does. But
yeah, like it feels like the game doesn't know whether it wants to be like a horror game or a sci-fi game or a fantasy game, and they tried to create this world where they like combined it all, and it just kind of bugs me because like I love the semi-apocalyptic, semi-sci-fi nature of just rebuilding America. I think that part of the gameplay loop is so great. And the other part of the gameplay loop being like, well, there isn't really the other part of the gameplay loop, but like I love that gameplay loop. I just don't like the like story aspect of it. And like, the Unger stuff. He comes out of nowhere, he's trying to kill you. Obviously, he's connected to Sam or the BB in some capacity, since he is always saying like BB, BB, where are you, BB? Um, but like, then what the fuck is up with all the creepy dolls that he has in World War One? Like, he's in a spider web of like weird
they're
decapitated and one-eyed dolls.
they're fake versions of BBs.
Right, but then why are they in a spider web? Like, it just feels like
And
I don't know.
that's just to look cool. It's like
I
cool
know,
barbed wire
and
spider web like that. That's going. I mean, I understand everything else. That's going to like why is it this design? That's a little too far. But the BBs, the baby dolls are just like trying to create your own
but
BB.
like
But
it just I don't know. I wish that he just made a horror game. Like I wish in all of that he just made Death Stranding like committed strongly to rebuilding America in a horror game and making like maybe making BTs scarier. Um, they're already pretty creepy, but like maybe I wish more of the gameplay loop involved like BTs, and then like he could go full on with some of the stuff, and I wouldn't question it more. But um, I like the gameplay loop a lot. That much I will say. Like I really, really do think the gameplay is great.
yeah, and that's what matters with Death Stranding. Is like
Yeah,
because if you don't like that game, like story aside, like if you don't like the gameplay loop, and that's why I figured you'd like that the most, even
yeah.
if the story didn't do
No,
anything
the
for it.
the gameplay loop is great, and I do love just kind of like cruising around on the roads delivering stuff and setting up. I really like the structure aspect of like it's kind of a world building game. Part world building, part not. I like that loop a lot. So it it's good. Yeah, the game is good. I see why it didn't review the best, but I also see why it has a cult following.
Yeah, it's a. Did you make a bridge link with me on?
Oh, now I got to remember to do that.
Yeah, I gotta remember to do that. Yeah, because I went through and I was like, because when I first logged in, I booted up my PS4 save I download the PS4 version, load my save, then download it on the PS5 version, uh, on there. And when I first booted up, I was like, oh yeah, the world is empty. But then it's because I hadn't explored in because I'm essentially on a new server. So I didn't explore. So as I started just driving around, it's like
Hmm.
then everything started popping up. All the stuff I had previously put down started populating. So all of my zip lines are there. A bunch of other miscellaneous, mainly the zip lines I was looking for because like I put a lot in the mountains. Um, yeah, like they all start popping. I'm like, okay, because you had told me like it didn't seem like there were many things around. Because typically, like once you bring a prepper online, that area that was off the Chiral network once popped, then it's like it like ding 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 ding, like all the stuff
Yeah.
populates the from
So
the other players, like all the signs and everything.
I think the first time I played, I think there was some sort of connection issue, or like there's a soft point where like you don't get full structures at the start. You just like they limit what pops up at the very start of the game so that it
Oh
like doesn't
yeah,
make it too easy. But this kind of brought me into the commentary I was making earlier, which is like there's definitely something weird going on with how structures and roads populate the world and how like contributions are made. And I don't know if it's because people aren't playing the director's cut anymore or if there's like a background algorithm, but the roads like they I've never seen shared roads in our in my world go up unless I made a contribution to them. I've seen them start at other values, like values other than 0, but I've never seen any road like get a contribution that wasn't due to myself. And I was so sure of this, I actually wrote down the values of like 20 different auto pavers to see where they were at, and over like 3 days there wasn't like a single contribution made. So I can't tell if that's like, okay, director's cut just isn't as popular anymore, so what I'm seeing are just structures and roads that have been around in the game for months and no one new is playing, or like I'm just not on a server where new people are playing, or if like the way the roads work is it just takes like a snapshot in time and you never get more than that.
yeah. I don't know because when I was playing on PC, like I had a bunch of like because usually the roads into even on my first playthrough, the roads leading up to Mountain Knot, I didn't really contribute because a lot of them were like zero value as far as mats. And I was like, I don't, and I was like, they're in funky place. I'm like, I don't really want to contribute to a bunch of these. But in my PC playthrough, I like as I'm playing, I get a notification like, hey, a player donated to section this of the road. So I get notifications like, hey, so I think maybe those must be only when active players are because yeah, if you're not seeing it and nothing's changing, then maybe there aren't. Because I when I bridge linked with you, the first thing I did was like just like, all right, I'm just gonna build a bunch of roads that lead through to Mountain Knot, and I like contributed to a shit ton of metal and ceramic to a bunch of sections. Uh, so that I'd be curious to see like if you bridge link with me, find a section that isn't completed, see what the value is. I go in there, see if on my game it's similar because I guess that would be determined by the shard. But I don't know if they initially do friend bridge links contributions or if it's just
Yeah.
server based. Because but yeah,
Well, there's also definitely like it if you're not to a certain point in the story, it doesn't let you receive contributions towards certain areas, which uh, part of that is probably connecting to the chiral network. But like
mm-hmm.
an example of that is I have part roads built to Mountain Knot City from the distribution center in the north of Mountain Knot, but basically all of the roads I've built have been 0, 0, 0, 0,
Right, yeah,
despite like the surrounding area being connected to the chiral network.
mm-hmm.
And I'm sure what I actually have to do is like I have to go to Mountain Knot City and connect that, and then that will c- create roads that between Mountain Knot City and the distribution center to the north. It will fill in some of that, but they obviously all the roads are built in some person's world. All the roads are built, so they have to limit progression, so you can't just like cruise through the end of the story with no risk. So
Mm-hmm.
like your first approach to any town has to be without roads. um, but sometimes like I feel like you have to go even further than that, and it's not just like to that town, it's like you have to go to the next way station to get previous ones. But yeah, more so it was like it's the not seeing any contributions to anything. Like I
Do
see
you
other
get when you
players'
log in?
structures.
Does it tell you that hey, so and so used your roads?
Yeah, so I get notified, and
Okay,
this is why I was kind of why I made that comment in Discord that like I kind of wonder if the way the road system works is like somewhat faked. Um, so like I get notifications that like people used my roads, and I get some level of like likes every time I log in. I just don't ever see any indication that anything in my world state is changing based on other players, and things with like like obviously it's hard to tell if it's like, okay, well, this is a new ladder and that was that ladder wasn't there before. Like that would be impossible. I would never be able to tell that. But with big structures, the bridges I use are all bridges that were already in my game, built by unknown. um, the roads, I have been monitoring values and like haven't received any contributions towards them. There are certain areas where I'm like, it surprises me that no one would have built anything here, and like there's nothing there. And then there's other structures where it's like, it makes me think that maybe there is some level of structures, not all of them, but like some level of structures that are actually part of the game, and Death Stranding just kind of pretends they were built by other players. And then it also makes me think that there are roads, like I said, that the road system is either snapshots or, again, like I might just be wrong, and it might just be that I'm not getting contributions because not many people are playing Director's Cut, which would be the other possibility, I guess.
There's also there's got to be like a proximity thing of population as well, because like when on PC there's this spot when you get to Mountain Knot City where on my PC version there was like a zip line in one spot that was kind of like up a bit on some rocks. They didn't put down a ladder. I was like, put down a ladder, man. But like like crazy hop up there and to use it. But it connects to some other spots. So I built off that thing like, okay, I'll put this here. I did see some other people's zip lines once I brought areas up online in the Chiron network. But then when went on my PC one, I went back to the same spot. Obviously, it's a different server, this and that. But like I could see all of my PS4 zip lines that I put up in the mountains, and I can see some other people's, but they're not close together. So I'm wondering, like, hey, if you put down a zip line, you have a 300-meter range. You can sometimes go a little more than that in certain locations, but it's like, okay, you got a 300-meter range between them is like the max distance. So it's like if one's there, maybe out of the aggregate of every player, maybe there's 100 in that 300 radius circle, but we just picked one, maybe with the most likes or a certain percentage of likes, and we gave it to you in your world. So it's like you're not running around populated with 100 ladders or three
Yeah,
bridges that cross the same river. You know what I mean? So it's
and
like
that's
it's
that's kind of what I
yeah.
mean. Like, I think they take some of those, like that there's some algorithm of like, oh, these have received a ton of likes. We're going to put them 10% of the random ones, or maybe 25%, or like something like that, in every player's world, and it's just going to be like a world state thing from now on.
Yeah, because on PC, like a lot of the bridges that I've seen all have like a lot of Asian players, because based on the PSN name, and then just a ton of likes. But then I still see some, like when I was going up to the old man, the elder, there was like a couple ladders that were by people with low likes. So I'm still getting like low like people, but maybe not for the major structures, like zip lines and bridges and catapults. Because even catapults, like I don't ever put them down. So I see other player catapults, uh, package catapults, like in places. I'm like, I never use it, but I see them there. Like, okay, it's like it was curious to go back and look at like the PS5 layout, like as I drove around and populated with other players' stuff. And you can look at the list and see like how many players' objects have you seen, and like it gives you a list of like how many you've gone past. Because you can create quite a large amount of, like, as your bridge level increases, you can do more and more uh, bridge links to other players. So I'm curious, like, yeah, what the, because you can obviously make stuff, you can take stuff out of your world. Like, I don't like this, get it out of here. Um, so yeah, I'm curious, like, what's the radius of objects, and then is it the type of object, like the tier of the object that determines the minimum and maximum level of likes based on other players if you come into the game late like you have, um, like how that works. Because yeah, because I did notice, like, with the roads, there's this one road that goes from through the mountain pass in from Mount Knot to the weather station that I didn't build because I'm like, I'm not going to build this road. And I don't remember it being in the OG one, but I guess it was. But yeah, there's like this one road section. I'm like, I'm not going to build. I'm just going to, just walk it or whatever, or build zip lines because I like zip lines. And eventually, like I walked past it to go to the weather station for like one delivery, and then eventually, like, that road just completed itself, like slowly, like after a couple sessions, like it kept going. So I'm wondering also if there's I talked about this with Zaya. I'm wondering too, like, okay, you have come across a bunch of players. a certain percentage of those players' objects that you've come across contributed to this section of the road. So once you bring that area online, over time, we will slowly take their past contributions and give you a percentage as you play, as if they were contributing in real time to make it easier. Because obviously, like, if you're playing and no one else plays, and you can only get contributions for the player if they're actually playing at the same time, it's like that's really going to kind of, it's going to be rough. Like it's like okay, that's not going to work. People moved on, yada yada. Especially if you come to the game like years later. So it makes sense if they're like, okay, you found these players, other objects, they contribute to this road, they completed it collectively. You can contribute all you want to also then get the likes for people who use that road. But over time, because it didn't do this for all the roads, it's just this one section of the road for me where it's like, hey, it got completed. I was like, that's interesting. I didn't complete. So I don't know if there's like some patch they did later where it's like, hey, let's make it a little easier for new players. Because obviously, like if the items exist in perpetuity in the world, it's like, okay, so do the roads. So how do we make it easier for new players to actually? Because you can just play offline and build it yourself if you want. But it's like, okay, and it's fine because it's only that one section I noticed it. No other sections I've seen it kind of do that, so I don't know what the parameter was for it to actually. But I was fine with it because I'm like, well, that's good. I mean, I like that it's there. I'd be curious to see if they do that for any other. I mean, maybe I did contribute if I just walked past and I happen to have metal on me. I might have done some, but because I always kind of contribute to every set. I usually give like chiral crystals, so at least I'm making some contribution. And I think for ones that are 0 to begin with, like, well, I feel like there's some sections where not a lot of players actually built the roads. I think that might be because maybe they fell off, like going to Mountain Knot and building all those sections when there's not really a whole lot of stuff between that one distro center and then the grass and river section, which is a really cool valley, but like there's not much you do there. So it's like, why build the road? Yeah, I'll just build the zip line from Mountain Knot up over the mountains back to the other side.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed a
But
few areas where it just makes sense to build a zip line instead.
yeah, I just really like the zip lines. But yeah, because then I was like, oh, that's when I was playing. Yeah, and again, I'm really curious about the radius of certain stuff because you can see, like, obviously, if you try to put something down, it'll tell you like, oh, you're too close to another player's
Yeah.
object, so you have to kind of
Well,
move away.
yeah, that or like you're off the network or whatever
The
restriction,
road's
steep
going to be there, so you
slope.
can't build.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I'd be curious to see like the network backend, like what they choose for strictly for the road contributions. There may be some of the other stuff for like again the popular bridges. Because yeah, you really don't see bridges in the first intro act until you bring the weather station
Right.
online
Well,
or the wind farm, and
and
then you turn around, there's a bridge.
regarding like road percentages, when I've brought a new way station or whatever into the chiral network, the road percentages of completion are always an even, like a nice percentage number. Like it's always either like 25% or 50% or something like that. It's never like 17% or even like 30%. It's always like a quarter or half or three quarters. Um, which just makes me think that like what I'm getting is the procedurally like, oh, people aren't playing this, therefore we're going to give you X amounts because that's about how much people might contribute to that road, or like some like they're faking a value because maybe it's not as popular anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, but when you drive on a road, uh, you'll see like the names of the people, I believe, who contributed to that section. Um, like you'll see your name and then like
You
all the other folks.
you do, but I just kind of wonder if that's coming from a fake list. So the only reason I say that is I have a road that I know I built 100% of that road. But when it was completed, then the road listed like 15 other unknowns and then my name. So like
It said unknown.
well, like the name unknown. Like
Yeah,
it doesn't yeah.
I think that's a weird network thing because I noticed that too. Like when I switched over to from PS4 to PlayStation 5, I went to look at my bridge link, so I went to go add you and do the friend link. And like I noticed a bunch of the people who I was bridge linked with, or who I had seen their objects on the PS4 version, said now unknown. So I don't know if that's like a server thing. Maybe they changed their name, like did a PSN name change, and that affects it. Like I'm curious what causes that unknown problem, but
But that wouldn't super explain the like why a road that I know I completed 100% of suddenly got credited to a ton of other people. But my only theory is that like they're not giving you people that contributed to your road. They are just listing people in the
rebuilt
game that have
the road
yeah,
in their game. Yeah, that
yeah,
could be
in
that
that
too. Yeah,
location.
yeah, because they are real people. Like you can view their profiles and
Yeah,
everything.
no, fully agree. It'd be really easy to fake some aspects of that. Like, oh, this one's not getting contributions, let's load it here, whatever. Like it would just be really easy to kind of add some elements like that.
Yeah, because there's like I said, all those sections from, especially there's that bit of the road once you leave that BT warehouse and you go around, the road splits off up the mountains by the cloud BTs, the cloud creatures or whatever. It's like that's such a weird section of the road, and the only reason you go that way is because there's the mules on the left. But like I don't know, like whenever I go past, it's like they're all at zero. Again, that could be because no one made it that far, or the people who did, like I don't know, maybe I'm not in their same server shard or whatever. Um, but yeah, I'd be curious, like if you rebuilt those sections as well, or like I said, if we make those bridge links and then we can try to test it and see if we can somehow, if I can make a contribution to a section that we both don't have, and if it pops up somehow saying like, oh, you log out and you log back in the next day and says that, hey, JCM made a contribution to your road section, yada yada. But yeah, because you should make that bridge link though, because I'd be curious to see like if you can. That's the thing I always wish. I was like, man, I wish I was playing this with someone I knew at the time, because I think that would have been really cool if we could have seen each other. Because you see so many other players' objects, and again, even low liked level ones as well. It's like okay, we could have easily seen
Right.
my stuff,
Yeah,
but
it would be cool, but I mean, I don't know. I'm still really enjoying the game. I like the game a lot. I those were just kind of my like commentary of going through of like I feel like some of that's faked and I have issues with the story.
yeah, yep. Man, I love building the zip lines, especially in the mountains. It's just so fun. Like, all right, I got to go here, go to this guy, go to this dude. This dude just
Oh
use the
god, and
zip lines.
I've been like trying to optimize and make my zip lines more efficient, and right now I'm like trying to figure out how I can like cut one zip line out because they take up so much of the chiral bandwidth. So I'm like replacing them, being like, well, maybe if I put it here and I feel like I could see it from there, and like trying that all out, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
Just got to raise the level of your everybody you're going to raise that chiral network bandwidth. And it's like you're not going to build anything else really in the mountains except for zip lines. Um, and there you go. It's just then I'm like, okay, do I want to walk around with 5 PCC level 2s on my back? Worry about them getting damaged, or I trudge through some. Man, the snow is like it's so get through the snow. It's like it's so, and that snow timefall is like it feels like it's so much worse. But I think that's just because you're walking so much slower. Um, and I love. Oh, never mind. You're not there yet. Yeah, there's just
I was
one.
gonna say,
There's
so far I've just avoided the snow timefall.
Yeah, it's funny because they teach you that mechanic early on. Like, oh, you can see the weather forecast. I'm like, I've never used that at all in my planning. Like, I get it conceptually, like, but I'm like, if I'm driving long distances, typically like I got a truck, like I got a vehicle. I don't care. Once you get the roads, it's like doesn't matter. And then, but yeah, it's like I never plan. And so it's like, well, I'm not gonna go way around to dodge something or like. But anyways, it's always funny that I'm like, I feel like this would have been good if the area of the rain wasn't so of the time vault was so huge in the forecast. Like I'm like, that's okay. Like
Yeah,
I know it's gonna be there.
I've tried the weather forecasting thing, and I'm like, it's so like pixelated and not accurate that I'm just kind of like, I I'm not going to avoid like I'm not going to wait 10 minutes just for the time fall to pass. I'll just bring like a container repair thing or whatever. Like I'm not
Yeah.
going to avoid playing the game because of this.
Right. Yeah. It's like when you're in your package is like, and the container itself being damaged, like doesn't matter. It's that just means, if the container is damaged, then the products eventually can get damaged if you were to fall. But it's like, so you have like that extra buffer. So it's like, you don't really need to worry about it. And for me, at least on PC, like there's so many time fall shelters, I feel like I see that I'm like, okay, it's like I can just well, if I'm in a truck, doesn't matter. I just drive the truck. But yeah, man, building that road section through that BT warehouse and that offshoot is like such a nice thing to do because I hate going like even though I got in like a boss fight there, and I thought like typically when you do a boss fight and a BT zone, the BTs go away. It's like, but they came back. I guess it's been so long since, but I guess that's not how it goes. It's like I did the fight. I had like no hematic grenades. I'm shouting. I'm like, say, hello, anybody help me? Like trying to get stuff, but they weren't sending me grenades. Like all the ghosts were sending me like freaking EX grenades. I'm like, this doesn't help me in the boss fight. Give me grenades. like finally, but I love that mechanic too of getting the like how many have you gotten any outside of like or have you gotten any big boss fight mechanics outside of any like story scripted ones?
No,
Dragged away?
I've just had no, because I haven't been caught yet. I did get caught once, and then I promptly died because I had nothing, and it
You
was
gotta
like the very
shout.
first. Well, this is like the first time I got caught. I had no idea what
Yeah.
was going on,
Yeah.
so it was that thing of like you die basically because you're like, what the fuck just happened? Um,
Void out.
I know you can call for like more supplies and things. I just
Yeah.
at the time did not. But it's I've been pretty good about avoiding BTs. They're not the hardest to avoid, which is kind of why I made the comment earlier of like I sort of wish they almost leaned more into the horror aspect because they're really freaky and
There's some
they're
good
like
stuff later.
it's a great gameplay design. So I just want them to like that'll be cool. I'll be grateful if there's more stuff with them.
Yeah, just some we'll just call them like modifiers. There's like a one section particularly in that game that you're coming up on that I really like, and I can't talk about it because it would be spoilers. But and then there's also like I forgot about something, and then when I was playing the other day, I was like, oh shit, I forgot about X, and then I was like, damn it, I was like, I was like, I gotta change my whole plan now. Let's do this. But yeah, I just love the level. Like I got I got hit with BT attack at like heading to the weather station. I told the story before where it's like same thing happened the first time I played the game. I was driving the truck. I knew there was BTs. The truck battery died when the BTs came about, and then I start the truck again, but then I just drove headfirst into a BT, and then it kicked me out of the vehicle, and I got to fight. But I love how it's like it does a thing where the tar fills up the area, and then buildings just rise up out of it. Like it's so cool. Like the landscape just changing, but the background, like the objects in the distance, are still the same. It just looks. I just like the way it looks. And then when you kill the boss, and then all the chiral crystal hands just come out of the ground where they die, just looks so cool. I love that about killing the BTs and just seeing them like Thanos snap away in red, and then watching the umbilical cord go to the ground and seeing the chiral crystal hand come out of the ground like in that weird animation way. It just looks so cool. Those damn chiral crystal hands, man, they're so cool.
It's a
But
really
yeah,
cool design.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I always try
But
to get like
again,
good
what does the
photos of them.
hand have to, this is going to bring me back. What do the hands have to do with anything? Why is the hand the symbolism?
Yeah, definitely gotta. Well, I won't be able to watch any of this week, but uh,
I'll stream some soon.
yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I haven't gone back and played too much Death Stranding. I after we talked, like I said I did the transfer, built, contributed to a bunch of roads. You have to make that bridge link, and then we can maybe test some stuff out another time. Um, not this week, obviously, but see how it goes, and then maybe see if any of the contributions on some of those roads leading to a distro center uh, pass will be like, hey, you got some extra channels. But you've just been playing Factorio. Man, Factorio does this thing where it's like I set the audio output to be like, oh, Stream Deck game, so the game channel. But every time I relaunch Factorio, it changes its audio output. It just picks one off the list. I'm like, God damn it! I'm like, I don't know why it does that. It annoys me. Um, but yeah, just playing that. That's a fun game. It's like I I have this problem where like everything is really good. Got like downloading some blueprints. I'm like, I'm just gonna get some blueprints or some stuff. Just for once I get to that point in the game, I could just build out the design how I want for like, especially for sciences. I'm like, just give me the science. A lot of other stuff I'll deal with myself, transporting resources, building my oil uh, section. I'll deal with that on my own. But it's like, give me the blueprints for this. But I'm close to that point where I'm going to get back to where I'll be setting up to research the rocket to actually finish the game. But I guess because like I'm there, like I'm kind of like I'll play it for a bit and I'll kind of stop because I'm like I don't want to get there, even though I know it's not a single player game or a story driven game where like once I beat it, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to play this anymore now, or I'll play it in a couple of years. Like I know I'll play it again on a different planet, maybe with some modifiers or something to make it more difficult or what have you. But it's like I don't want to get there. I get that way with Oni too, where like I always get. I mean, a lot. I mean, I guess it's a lot of that Civ 6, Civ 5, a lot of the same thing where it's like I love the early and mid game, and then once I get to late game, I'm like, okay, now it's like, do I want to go for the? Well, usually Civ, I'll play it until it's over, but I'm always like, yeah, okay, I'm on my Oni base. I got everything where I want it to be. It's like, do I want to build a rocket and explore space? Like I've never actually beaten Oni, but I'm just like, yeah, I don't really want to. I just like playing, so then I just stop. So I'm worried about my. Luckily, Factorio's cloud save, so I'll take my laptop with me on vacation. Maybe I'll finish it up there. But yeah, it that is a fun game. It's just I'm like dragging my feet on finishing up my rocket, doing all these little other side projects in it that are a lot of fun. But I did buy Talos Principle 2 was on sale. Pick that up. Only play like a couple minutes of it, but look forward to playing some more of that. And then I also picked up Last Train Home because that was on sale. I'll play it at some point. Probably not just yet. And then yeah, because they have like the Steam sale going on. And then what else? I know I watched someone do a replay. I watched it 4 years ago when it came out originally, but I watched NL play Frostpunk. I know Frostpunk 2 is going to be coming out. I was like, I kind of want to just replay Frostpunk again. Like, I think there's like one scenario I never finished, but I kind of want to go back and just play like the main city bit one because like it doesn't take really that long to play through a whole round of Frostpunk. So I might play some of that, but yeah, just I was just gonna kind of hop around. Like I hopped into FF Rebirth and I'm like, okay, let's hop in, and then I did some of the Queen's Gambit, whatever the Queen's Blood, Queen's Reich, whatever the game is called in that game, the card game,
the Queen's Reich.
Yeah, it's like and I was like, okay, let's play this card game, and then it was just like I played this one dude, like I only did the tutorial, and then I played the first person you can find, level 1 or rank 1. Beats me a couple times. I kind of like reacquaint myself with the mechanics. I'm like, okay, and then I beat him, and I go to the rank 2 kid. It's like little cocky shit, and I just totally like beat his ass so hard in that game. And I was like, that's what you get. But then I stopped there. Like I talked to a couple characters and I didn't do anything else. So it's like I'm kind of in this weird bouncing back and forth. I need to finish Death Stranding, finish that replay. And then yeah, I don't know. Then maybe I could start bouncing around other single player stuff and playing like Oni and Factorio and whatnot.
You gotta play Dragon's Dogma.
I'm not really interested in Dragon's Dogma. I know the character creator like went off the other week where it's like everybody's just making, that happens when you have a character creator that goes kind of hard. People like make other characters from other games and whatnot, or make actors and what have you. But nah, I'm not really interested. I know I'm kind of bummed because Alone in the Dark reviews are out, but it's not reviewing well. It is funny because they say, oh, it's not as good as Alan Wake 2. I'm like, I didn't expect it to be. And it's like, oh, it's not quite as great as this survival horror game combat wise. I'm like, I didn't expect it to be like Resident Evil 4 remake. So it's like I don't know if I should take that review with like a grain of salt of like they're busy comparing it. It'd be like, will Baldur's Gate 3 set, bad expectations of gamers for other RPGs? It's like, no, it's like when you have a game that's like an outlier and way above the rest, you kind of like, it doesn't like raise your expectation. You just kind of like do compare like, oh man, there are quality of life things I liked in this game or aspects of it like, but it doesn't mean other games are bad in the same genre. So I'm like, maybe I'll play it at some point when it's on sale. I did kind of bum me out. They said like, cause there's 2 different characters in that game. But unlike say Resident Evil 2, they're not quite as different story wise, I guess. So that kind of bummed me out. Cause I was kind of hoping like, oh, maybe it'll be like a Resident Evil situation where it's like it's pretty similar, but there are some characters can get to other places the other character can't, what have you. But yeah, it just sounds like it's not too much difference. So maybe I'll just wait till that game goes on sale. But I mean, I picked up Talos Principle too, so I'll probably play that just because it's a puzzle game. It'll be easy enough to play through a couple.
You have to let me know how that is, because I was interested in that game.
Man, when I first played, I was like, okay, maybe I'll try this with a mouse. And I can't play FPS with a mouse, man. I guess I just don't have a steady enough hand. But I just, it's not like motion sickness. It's more like I just can't look at the screen because I'm so close to it. Like I would have to move so far back. But if I have a controller, even with no cursor or HUDs, like it's so much smoother as far as the movement. I feel like it's just, I guess if I could lock it in left, right, up, down on the mouse or something, like maybe that would make it better. Like I could only move it in certain directions. It can't go in the in-between. So I can only hit every like 45 degree. Then it would be smooth. But like, yeah, if I move to the right, it's not quite right. I go up a couple degrees or down. It's like, and I can't have that. I'm like, I just don't like this. It's like, that's not for me. I'm not a PC gamer who's got that under control. So I'm like, I got to play this with a controller.
See, for me, I just don't have the twitch reflexes anymore.
Yes. Yeah, I don't even that because I'm like, I have those on controller. It's just, yeah, I can't. I feel like
I'm finding controller. I lost them for PC. I struggle with the mouse now. I'm just like, controller feels so nice.
Well, it's just like it's some disconnect between hand and brain where I'm just like, I moved my mouse to the right, but it wasn't perfectly right, so it doesn't match to what I'm expecting to see. Versus like if you just hit right on the analog stick, it's pretty much going to be right. But anyways, all right, well, we can go ahead and wrap it up there. Like I said, a shorter episode this week. A lot of Death Stranding talk. Hopefully, we can get some more of it next time. We won't have any episode recorded this weekend, so we'll probably she'll probably beat it by the time we talk next. So we'll see what happens there. But all right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So thank you all for tuning in and listening. Thank you, Isli, for joining.
Yep.
And we'll see you all next time.
Bye.